English translation 323rd. Contact Thursday, 4th April 2002. Wait, true. 22 hours.
Here I am, my friend. Greetings.
Greetings and welcome too. When I went to bed at 3:15 hours this morning, I was still thinking about you, and that you would probably come early today.
At the moment, these early hours are the best time for me to visit you.
There is nothing wrong with that. Besides, I am used to being visited from your side at all possible and impossible times. I got used to that at the beginning of our contacts, and therefore I do not mind it. Besides, it is always a great pleasure for me to greet one of you, no matter at what time it may be. So I do not have any problems when I have to get up early, even if I have only slept for a few minutes, as has often happened.
This is known to all of us. We are also grateful to you for this because we do not have to adjust to certain times, which would be very often difficult for us. But there are several reasons why I come today. Firstly, I want to inform you about what Quetzal has achieved regarding your request for meditation. And secondly, there are some other things I want to discuss with you, and I also want to talk about the matter that shocks me, which concerns Edith's incomprehensible actions and behavior and her future.
If you feel the need, talk about it. But I would appreciate it if these issues did not have to be officially included in the conversation report.
If that is your wish, which I can understand, then so be it. So now listen to what I have to report regarding your question to Quetzal in connection with meditation. He has made a great effort and has found a possibility to arrange everything according to your suggestion. However, it took a lot of effort and a long time on his part to work out an appropriate solution, which is also the reason why it took longer than just the end of March before I can report to you. The thing is, then, that he can arrange everything according to your wish, so that the individual members of the group, at least those who wish to do so, can go to meditate alone, provided that certain rules and precautions are observed. On the one hand, this concerns the exact timing of entering and leaving the meditation room. This must be regulated with a timer, which is to be handled by the meditators themselves. The total length of the meditation time remains the same, but the time of deviation for entering and leaving the meditation room increases from 3 minutes to 7 minutes. The timer must be such that it can be set to the nearest minute and automatically sound an alarm at the appropriate time when the meditation is finished.
Just a moment, please. That should not be a problem because you can use the so-called timers, which we simply call egg timers.
I guess that is what you call these timers. Yes, these are very suitable for that. So there remains the problem of depilation hygiene, which cannot be ignored. In this regard, you must find a solution yourselves so that impurities do not appear. As bad as it may sound, there is, as we have found out, that the depilation hygiene in the sexual area is a problem for some members of the group, and they find it difficult to fit in. However, this hygiene regulation is a well-considered and necessary measure, which is partly necessary for personal cleansing and for keeping the body clean, and equally for keeping the meditation center clean. Therefore, a certain amount of monitoring is needed to ensure this hygiene measure, but the process of monitoring should be carried such that no forms of shame or humiliation, etc., can occur. Which is why Quetzal's advice is that only sporadic checks should be carried out in such a wise that the service of bringing them in remains in place, and that this service should be carried out from time to time by the various ones responsible for it, without prior notice to all users of the meditation center, and that the necessary checks should be carried out, which in this form should in no wise be shameful or humiliating, etc.
I have made that suggestion myself, but it did not exactly meet with open ears.
I am aware of that, but we think this would be the most acceptable solution to the problem. I myself submitted your proposal to Quetzal, after which we discussed it with our spiritual leaders and came to the conclusion that the proposed solution was probably the best. As a result, Quetzal integrated this solution into his work and found that in this wise the whole thing could be implemented. However, this requires an overall group decision on your part, and that is in relation to whether everyone agrees with this solution. This should be clarified at the next meeting, after which Quetzal will come here within the next 7 days and rearrange everything in the meditation center. So now everything depends on whether all group members agree with it. It still has to be explained that some group members are suffering from some kind of fear of bringing themselves into the meditation center alone, so the service of those bringing them in should continue.
This should all really be done. Anyway, on behalf of all the group members, I would like to thank you and Quetzal and your spirit leadership very much.
That is all right, my friend. We all have enjoyed trying to find a solution. But now I would like to come back to the matter I mentioned concerning Edith. As for...
This is all very unpleasant, but I do not think there is anything we can do about it, painful though it is. So we should not talk about it anymore.
I just felt the need to explain these issues to you, so that you know where you stand and you have a right to be informed, because it affects you the most. But now to the other things I have to discuss with you. It is about... Then these issues would also be resolved. I also want to thank you for your effort.
It is okay. No need to thank me. If you have some time, there is something I would like to ask you.
I am all ears.
It deals with slaughter according to Jewish ritual. Just a short time ago in public and by the government, much has been said about that. Indeed, in regard to whether the slaughter of animals according to Jewish ritual on religious grounds should be allowed or not. In my opinion, it should not be allowed, because it deals thereby with a quite clear and very evil animal torture. On this basis, I ask myself the following. Why, in ancient times, would it be ordered by an Ishwish that the animals which serve as nourishment for the humans would not be humanely killed, rather should be cruelly and brutally slaughtered according to Jewish ritual? What basis exists for this, which, in my opinion, is a disdainful order regarding animals, which I find not only barbaric, but evil and completely degenerate? How could humans think and behave only in this form, if they already were as highly developed as the distant space, travelers of that time?
That slaughter, according to Jewish ritual, was never and at no time demanded by an Ishwish, respectively by a god, as it is expressed by Earth humans, because the renegades themselves, who carried the title IHWH, held to the law that animals of every species and kind should not be exposed to any kind of torture. Rather, if they are ready to be killed, that it must happen very quickly and completely painlessly. This was an irrevocable law since time immemorial that was always respected and followed by the evilest renegades themselves, and also today has unconditional validity for all of our peoples in the entire Federation, and is followed without exception. The extremely agonizing manner of killing animals through slaughter according to Jewish ritual leads back to an Earth human's brutal custom of the sacrifice, as well as to the lies of the sacrifice priests. That a divine order and demand existed that meat from killed animals is only edible as food, used and thus allowed to be eaten by humans when it was pure and thus bled. But that can only be the case if, as with the brutal sacrifice of the animal, the blood runs completely out of the body, which can only happen through slaughter according to Jewish ritual, and therefore, through that, it can happen that the animal has the neck, and thereby also the artery cut through. A method unworthy of humans, that is extremely painful for the animals, which also the depraved sacrifice priests knew, as they joyously gloated in their sadistic torture when they murdered humans and animals in this manner and wise on the sacrificial blocks, and rejoiced in their insane belief and fanaticism in the monstrous torture of their sacrifices, who would often writhe for many long minutes in their pain.
But it would be asserted, as it was from time immemorial, by today's slaughterers according to Jewish ritual, that the animals, through the slaughter according to Jewish ritual, would feel no pain.
That is a conscious monstrous lie since time immemorial from the advocates of slaughter according to Jewish ritual, or an untruth in non-recognition of the actual truth.
And how is it thereby that no pork is permitted to be eaten by the Jews and the Moslems? That this is supposedly unclean, and therefore, in the measure of the Jewish concept, should be unkosher, respectively not kosher.
That is also a pure earth-human sham, because actually, in this regard, such a nonsensical order was also never demanded by an IHWH, respectively a god. Again, in this regard, it was also autocratic and mendacious priest fanatics who had fallen to false beliefs, as well as bringers of religion, who invented this nonsense, and indeed because pigs, according to their nature, wallow in filth, whereby the originators of this false teaching assumed that pork is unclean, that through the external dirt, also the meat inside is dirty, and for that reason cannot be eaten by humans, and would not be permitted to be eaten. That is all there is to say about this. And with that, dear friend, that should be enough for today, for I have to attend to my other duties again. Farewell.
Thank you for your words. Goodbye.